Happy New Year. Welcome to today's program on justice, a lawyer's hangout where lawyers dissect legal issues with intent to create awareness, educate, and enlighten the public. I am Cecilia Meme, your host, and joining me on today's program are two lawyers in the legal profession in the person of Fortune, Toma, and Juliet Odo. Today we'll be discussing what every Nigerian citizen should know about their fundamental rights. Welcome to today's program, Counsel.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
We'll be diving right into the conversation. It is one thing to enforce your rights, it is another thing for you to know your rights. So today we'll be discussing what every Nigerian citizen should know about their fundamental rights. Mr. Toma, what are fundamental rights?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Good day,
Thank you for joining
Nigeria.
us.
Good day, LJE. So, fundamental rights speak to the basic human rights that every one of us, as citizens, not just of Nigeria, but as human beings, citizens of the world, are entitled to. So, basic rights like the right to life, the right to movement, right to peaceful assembly, they all form the crop of what we regard as fundamental rights. And across jurisdictions, you find that it's a big deal for peaceful human coexistence, that rights are upheld, that rights of humans are followed to the latter, and that, you don't encroach on another person's rights.
Okay. Okay, so for the sake of emphasis, fundamental rights are rights that accrue to your person by virtue of being a human.
Chicken.
Mrs. Juliet, which laws provide for fundamental rights in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. Basically, the law guiding the fundamental human rights of every individual is the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Chapter 4 to be specific. So if you go through the entire Chapter 4, it's talking about your rights as an individual, irrespective of your religion, your gender, and whatever status you may have. It just covers everything.
Okay, this brings me to the next question. What are these rights tend to be? Because I think when you were defining what fundamental rights are, you made mention of right to life or something. I didn't really get that. So what are these rights tend to be so that our viewers can know that these are the rights that are inured to their person and how they can go about enforcing it?
So, I mean, the rights are, you could almost say, unending. So, but when you talk of the most, it's very critical because when you say fundamental, the tendency is to speak to only the basic rights, the first set of rights, the right to life, the right to peaceful assembly. If you check the Constitution, just as she said, the entire chapter 4, from sections 33, we talked about the right to life, to sections, I think, 44, speaks exhaustively on those basic rights. But you see that for each right, there are components to each right. For example, when you talk of the right to fair hearing in the judicial system, it is inclusive of the right to be a head in the first place. It also is inclusive of the right to have counsel to represent you, and there are a lot of subsets. So generally, those are what you would call the basic rights, what is contained in chapter 4. The right to life, the right to freedom of movement, right to personal liberty. But then there are also socio-economic rights, the right to education, for example, and as a component of any society, because all individuals are part of any society, there's a responsibility on government to ensure that some of these rights that, may not that require the institutional backing of government. For example, the right to education. Do you understand? Some of these rights are upheld. So I think the African Charter on Human and People's Rights is that has been domesticated in Nigeria is another enabling legislation that speaks to some of these rights that are in chapter 2 of the Constitution, the right to education and the rest of them, the rights that you may term as social economic rights. So in terms of what these rights are, the right to freedom of religion, that's why you can decide to be a Muslim or you can decide to be a Christian, and nobody's forcing you. Do you understand? The right to peaceful assembly, that's why you can go on peaceful marches, on peaceful protests, and what have you. Do you understand? The right to own property, the right to be compensated for property that for wrongful acquisition of your property. Do you understand? So the rights are at an on end.
Enormous.
Yes, they are enormous. It's almost impossible to spell out all these rights. There's even the UN Charter on human rights that speaks to some more of these rights. But the ultimate point is that while enforcement of rights may seem like a jurisdictional issue, ultimately the rights are a global phenomenon.
Okay.
Yes, so that's essentially it.
Okay, to our viewers, what my colleague was rightly mentioning is that we have the right to life, we have the right to dignity of human person, you have a right to personal liberty, you also have a right to fair hearing, you have a right to private and family life, you have a right to freedom of thought, you have a right to freedom of conscience and religion, you have a right to freedom of expression, and freedom of press. You have a right to peaceful assembly. You also have a right to freedom of movement, freedom from discrimination. You have a right to acquire and own immovable properties anywhere in Nigeria. So let's move on to the next question. Mrs. Juliet, how can citizens protect their fundamental rights? Now, they already know their rights.
Yeah.
So what can they do to protect their fundamental rights?
Yeah. First of all, in the simplest way of protecting your fundamental human rights is to familiarize yourself with the contents of Chapter 4 of the Constitution.
Okay.
I think every citizen should have the Constitution. It's not expensive to purchase.
It's even online now. You can just download it. Everybody has a smartphone.
Read Chapter 4 of the Constitution, the entire Chapter 4. And God so kind, the drafters of the Constitution took time to make sure that Chapter 4 of the Constitution is in the simplest language. So you don't even need to acquire so much skills to understand the English that the draftsman used for the Constitution. So acquire the Constitution, read the Constitution, understand your rights so that you know when it's being violated.
Okay.
And when it's being violated, the first thing you should do is to maybe talk to a human rights lawyer.
Speak up.
Speak up, speak out. We even have the social media platform. Come out and speak out. There are a lot of civil societies out there willing and ready to help you.
Listen to you,
yeah.
So for you to protect your rights, you must know your rights, first of all, then you speak up. If there is any discrimination happening around you, you stand up against it, you speak up, because the truth is that if we don't speak up, how then can we enforce it, or how can we get help? So now moving on to the next question, Mr. Toma, how can citizens know that their rights have actually been violated?
Okay, it goes without saying now. So if you know what your rights are, you know when they are being violated. So the key component is knowing what you have a right to. And it's very tricky because as much as you have rights, other human beings that you coexist with have rights. Do you understand? So there are limitations to this thing. Nothing is at an end. The fact that you have a right to freedom of movement doesn't mean you walk into someone else's compound and go and be encroaching. That person has a right to his private property, to peaceful existence in his private property. So as much as rights have limitations, it's very important to also, as much as every human being has a right, it's very important to understand that where your right, stops, another person's right begins. So you must be able to find a balance. And these things, they are intuitive. You don't even need legal advice to understand that you have a right to live, that you should not be killed. But you should also know that if you go ahead to kill someone, to deprive someone of his right to life, the law will take its course, and you may very well be deprived of your right to life.
Yeah, there was this skit I came across on social media. There was this lady, she was doing an incantation on a major road, let's say an expressway, and a vehicle was coming on the highway. The guy did not stop. I don't know if it was real or a skit. The guy ran over the lady. So the lady, immediately she saw that the car was coming very close, she ran away. And then people were arguing like, she has freedom of religion. She's the
Okay.
traditionalist. She can do whatever.
Okay.
Somebody else was like, no. Even if she has freedom of religion, this other person also has freedom of movement. So
That's
And right of
yes,
Yeah.
rights of way. So you should understand that where my rights ends, another person's right also begins.
Yes.
So once your right has been violated, please, if somebody hits me on my body, has my right been violated?
That's assault. So I mean,
So there's a thin
that's
thin line.
yes, and of course, when I say it's assault, that's like a torturous term. So if you go to court on that ground, it will be torture. But there's a fundamental human right component. Do you understand? And
Torture.
yes, the same thing. Torture. There's this.
when your right to human dignity is being violated.
It's being violated, even when you are forcefully detained. Do you understand, by the police, whether or not you are tortured? Do you understand? That's an infringement of your right. So
Unlawful detention.
I think intuitively, as a human being, you would know, you would just know the things that are right and wrong. And so just have it at the back of your mind that as a human being, when something you is perceived as a reasonable person, under all reasonable circumstances, when you perceive something to be wrong, there's a very good chance that your right is being violated. What you can do is document it. So media is the new gold. Right, we are on media currently. So document it. It's now a trend. Just take out your phone video. In fact, the media has now existed to reduce the cases of rights violation. I was watching a video the other day of one of the presidential aspirants in one of the elections. He was being stopped by police officers and they say he should park. He was going to the airport and he was like, he's not parking. He was videoing. Eventually they let him go. Do you understand? So that puts fear when the person who seems
Who has an intention?
who is perceived to want to violate your rights seems to, now know that you are
Maintain
documenting
it.
that violation. The person, and I'm not saying that the police was
right
violating.
or wrong. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm just trying to buttress the point that it's important you document it. Once you begin to feel like this is wrong, anything that's been done to you, is wrong, document it so that, in the courts or in whatever appropriate authority, you have that opportunity to present your case and be believed and present evidence. So that I think that's the essential point. Let me land on that.
So in this instance now, with all you rightly mentioned, what steps should anyone whose right has been is being, there's already law puts it. What steps
Was
should
about
they
to be.
take?
Or is perceived.
Yeah. What steps should they take? Should they just go to court? Should they go to the police? Where are they meant to go to? Miss
Okay,
Juliet, you
okay.
can
So
take
where
a
they
shot
were
at that.
meant to go to, like you rightly said, the easiest way to report a violation of your rights is the social media. Because sometimes economic situation could, deter people from going to the enforcement agency to report that their rights have been violated. However, if your rights has been violated or you perceive that your rights is about to be violated, you should seek, run to a lawyer. Let me use that word, run.
You don't even know a lawyer. If you don't know a lawyer, run to the police.
Police. Do you
The police is actually your friend. If
Yeah.
trust me.
pick
the
up your
police is doing a
phone,
lot.
like you said, document it, post it. There are a lot of people willing and ready to help you out, seek redress. So the first thing is just to do it the lawful way. Report to the police, report to a lawyer, report to the Human Rights Commission. You can write them. You can file a petition. You can do a simple letter. Rush. Because people just think that, I need a lawyer, and they're scared. Let me allow it slide. And these things keep happening. Citizens don't even know that you can write a simple letter to the Human Rights Commission, to the police. The Human Rights Commission may not even ask you for any financial engagements. So that's it. Report to the police, go to Human Rights Commission as well.
Okay, let's quickly go on a short break.
Hello, have you or anyone you know suffered violation or oppression, regardless of cultures, identities, or backgrounds? Leadership Hub, Justice and Economic Advancement is here for you. An organization created with an amplified voice to fight for you and with you. At LJE Nigeria, you will not only be heard, but also provided with legal support. Together, we can create a country where every individual can live without fear of violation or oppression. I am Aisha Shetima, an LJE member. You too can become a member today or report any violation by visiting our website, ljenigeria.org. You can also follow us on all social media platforms for more information and updates. Remember, together, we are stronger.
Welcome back. Before we went on a very short break, we were discussing what citizens can actually do to enforce their rights. And here are other two rule one of the FREP rules, Fundamental Rights Enforcement Procedure Rules, says that anyone whose right has provided by the Constitution is being, or is likely to be infringed may apply to courts, file a complaint or a petition to the National Human Rights Commission. We also have the African Union, United Nations, Judicial Enforcement and Non-Judicial Enforcement Commission. You can also write letters to the rights authorities and social media advocacy, as rightly pointed out by my colleagues. Mr. Tuma, does an individual have to be directly involved to enforce a fundamental rights action?
Okay. Currently, in Nigerian jurisdiction, you don't need to be directly involved. So, because of the peculiar nature of fundamental rights, generally the rule will be that before you bring a matter before the court, you must have, a direct relation to that. You must have local standard. That's what they call it. But for fundamental, human rights rules, you don't need to be directly involved in a fundamental human rights matter before you can bring it to court. The only thing is the persons who are involved, the persons whose rights have been violated, they have to, you have to work with them more or less. You cannot come and be claiming, that someone else's right has been infringed, and then the person is coming later to say, "Sorry, I'm okay. Nothing happened to me." So that's the only what's it called? Rule or criteria. But essentially, even if you are not directly involved, even if you are not, the repository or recipient of a direct human rights violation, you can actually go into a matter. And that's what you see a lot of these social media jungle justice practitioners. I won't say jungle justice, but just call them social media advocates,
human rights
advocates. They go online and they're advocating for people and they call out people. They use the social media, which is the new gold, like I said before, to actually advocate and call out people. So it's, that court of public opinion now exists to see how some of these infringements to rights of, individuals out there, whether it is between individuals or between businesses, or between governments, or between government and individual, business and individual, whatever level of violation occurs, the social media is now there to see how
And from reality, it has been yielding a lot of results because a lot of people now go on social media. Twitter is even. I think Twitter is the height right now. Just go and tweet and tell people to help you retweet. And the next minute, we are seeing people being called because there was one that occurred recently where there was a missing child. The mother went to the police station to lay a complaint. And on getting there, she was requested to pay a certain amount of money so that they can take statements and all of that. And a relation to the family just posted, I saw it on Instagram, posted, tagged the police force PRO to that claim, that this is what the police officers in charge of that place they were requesting for. And immediately he told them that was during the festive period, he told them to send him a DM. That for what? Because the age of the child in question was even very small. We're like, why should this happen? And I think in less than 48 hours, police went into action. It took the matter very personal. And he also mentioned that the police officers that were in charge of that misconduct
Or be sanctioned.
they've been sanctioned.
You see, I think that ties into a very
A
important
child
point.
is missing,
Yeah.
and then
And,
there's no compassion. You are requesting for,
Yeah.
and within a space of less than even 2 hours, anything can even happen to that child that would even violate their own human
Yes,
rights.
yes.
I know of a lawyer in her location where she resides. A lot of people aren't even aware that she's the one who usually calls the attention of NAPTIP.
Are you serious?
Yes, to come and arrest some persons in the vicinity. Now, a case happened. You take someone's child, you're looking for help, right? This child doesn't go to school. And even on the days you allow her to go to school, she doesn't go to school early. She's about 12, right? You took her from her parents as a domestic staff. You beat her up.
That's
A
child
child is,
abuse.
yes, you
Child
beat her
abuse.
up. Now, do you know what this lawyer did? She just moved to a government agency, NAPTIP, because you're violating the child's
Yes,
rights.
yes.
You're torturing that child, her right to human dignity of person. You insult her in the morning. Every morning she hears this woman's voice. She didn't tell her anything. She just went straight to NAPTIP, told them. They came, observed,
her.
picked her up.
So we can actually be a brother's keeper.
Yes. Can be a
Yes.
brother's keeper.
So you see, this also ties into. I was trying to make a point earlier, understanding that it is a law enforcement that can actually enforce your rights.
Yeah.
So the social media is only there as an amplifier.
Amplifier.
Do you understand? It's not enough to come and yes, there's the court of public opinion, but I mean it goes both ways as well. There are challenges with that.
Yes.
You have
as well.
situations where people come on air to lie,
Yes.
come on social media to actually just lie, clear-cut lie. Do you understand? So it's important that you have that sense of responsibility, to understand that social media is supposed to be just an amplifier. So use it for good. At the end of the day, whether or not you go on social media will be only there to see that the law enforcement does what they need to do.
So in this instance, I think the first step they should even take the necessary step via security agencies,
Yes,
maybe lay a
law
complaint or make a statement, go report this issue. And when you notice that they are not really taking it
Yeah.
as fast as it should, then
Yes.
Go online.
on social
Yes,
media.
it wasn't directly
Because I've
involved.
actually also seen an instance where somebody actually made an outcry on social media, and then the PRO was like, "Have you reported to?"
First, yes. Have you done the first step? Because
That's the first step. Because even if they want to help you from social media, they still go back to see, okay, has this person made a formal complaint? Because I don't think anybody would even want to come to your rescue without
from our complaint.
even the human rights activists. Even when they take up cases for people that are not directly involved, they
Go
also
to
go
make that
to the
complaint. Yes.
police
They go
station to
the-
make the
Yeah, guys, that's the first
complaints.
thing. Police station or any other agency that is saddled with that responsibility of, violation of human rights. The
Protecting
Human Rights
human
Commission is there.
Yes, the National Human Rights Commission.
Yeah.
Even the Nigerian Bar Association is there. There are a lot of advocacy groups, and all of these advocacy groups have online platforms.
Yes,
they have
LJE
websites.
is also there
LJ
for
is
you.
here.
Yes, and LJ is there for
Yes,
you.
LJ is there for you. So
Go on our website to report a violation. as
if you are
well.
if your rights have been violated, go and report. You will see how quickly progress and response will come.
Okay,
to
this brings me to the next question, Mr. Tuma. What are the biggest challenges to fundamental rights? Because one, now I know my rights. I know this is the route I should take. But why are Nigerians not embracing it? Because a lot of persons, I am really not the type of person that believe in just making noise. Fine, there's this opinion people have that there is no justice in the country.
Yeah.
But I still see people getting justice. If you do not take that step, you never know what the outcome might be. So why are people not embracing it? Poverty, I don't have money, I cannot afford a lawyer. What's the issue? What's the issue? What's the challenge?
you have taken the words right out of my
Because
mouth.
a lot of people will say Nigeria, there's no justice.
You have taken the words right out
as
of my mouth.
lawyers, we know you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
So
And we also have legal aid. They are there to assist.
Yeah. So
People are not aware.
I think that's so. This is a potpourri of issues. First of all, awareness. A lot of people don't know that they can enforce their rights, and then secondly, when they do, the hindrances. A lot of people feel their current economic status in life, poverty, hunger. That's why it's always important that we have the right government in place. Because if there's no economic prosperity, people are deterred. When I think of the fact that it will be so stressful and financially consuming to go to court, to get a lawyer, to go to report to the police, what would I do? I would keep quiet in my house. But, so it's a lot of issues. But I think some of the most critical ones, apart from the obvious ones like, the economic situation, poverty, and lack of awareness in the country, we need to have stronger institutions. You understand? And I'm not just talking of the judiciary, across the entire law enforcement value chain, the entire criminal justice value chain. We need to have stronger institutions. So we need to be able to, a lot of these institutions are overworked. In having stronger institutions, you need to incorporate technology.
Yeah.
Rome was not built in a day. It doesn't have to happen in a day, but we need to start having pockets of, advances here and there. Do you understand? So I know that because there are a lot of virtual hearings now, but a lot more can be done. We need to be able to have access to justice to the most common man. We need to take out those barriers. There are a lot of barriers to accessing justice.
Yeah.
If you go to even the process of filing your case before the court is where it comes as cost. It comes at cost. It's cumbersome. Then the judiciary is overworked in terms of the administrative staff and the judges. You have judges with dockets that run into years ahead. Do you understand? So we need to strengthen our institution. That's the first thing, and it ties into a lot of other things. We need to have a more robust judicial system, police system. These guys are actually overworked. We need to carry out trainings and retraining, capacity buildings.
Yeah.
The policeman on the road, a lot of the time, doesn't know too much about the best practices, international best practices. The other day I was reading an article that says by 2025 we have entered a new generation. There's always a 14-year timeline. Gen Alpha or Gen Beta. We're talking about Gen Z, but there's already 2 more generations, Gen Alpha and Gen Beta. Do you understand? So you have a lot of more persons coming on board that require trainings and retrainings. Do you understand? And it's also for the older generation. So because they are dealing with this younger generation. So we need to have trainings and retrainings in all tied into strengthening our institutions. Then there's corruption. That's just what it is. So we need to, as much as possible, eliminate corruption. How do you eliminate corruption? Reduce human contact. Embrace technology. There are a lot of issues.
It will also I think it also take out that fear that comes to the fact that people feel me going to the police station, I'm not going to get
Good. I saw a video online that says in Ukraine they have the fastest business registration service. You could register your business in under 2 minutes. Yes, it's not. In fact, they have like an app that warehouses about 18 government services across different government agencies. Do you understand? So if you tie that into our justice system, there's nothing wrong or there's nothing that stops us from warehousing all the agencies that ties into that justice ecosystem into an application that anybody can go on his app store and Play Store and download. And when there's issues, you report
immediately.
You understand? Then that is one thing to say that implementation may be a whole lot. The states need to do more.
Yeah.
So it's a call on governors, state governments to actually do more, state attorney generals to do more, because every crime that is committed in a state.
Yeah, and I think we also need to also encourage people out there that even if they don't have the money for legal representation, they should also be aware that there are other alternative means like they can utilize in enforcing their rights. It is one thing to know your rights, it's another thing to enforce your rights. Yeah. So now, quickly, let's are there any remedies available to those who their rights have been violated? Because when some people actually do not want to even take any steps because they feel nothing will come out. So just briefly, Miss Juliet.
Okay, like he said, as it is now with the situation of the country, we know that poverty is a major challenge. Because when people hear, okay, my right has been violated, I'm supposed to contact a lawyer, they are scared. So I think we should work on having seminars, LGE can do something like that, advocacy, awareness, telling people that you don't even have to hire a lawyer. You can write a simple petition. Tell them about the agencies that also work hand in hand with the courts to ensure that your rights are not being violated.
What was the end result of that? Will they give me money or will they give me...
It's part of legal aid services.
compensation?
It's
No,
part of
like,
legal aid
when
services.
we now
We're talking
finally
about
get to
grassroots.
courts and we get the redress, will there be compensation to those kind of individuals?
Of course, it
course.
depends on the nature of their complaints.
Okay, now
Yes.
let's quickly look at it. Are there any time limits to seek justice on fundamental rights issue? Are there any time limits? Is it something that once it occurs, we're advising them to immediately?
Yes, of course,
Just-
that will be for many reasons, aside from whether there will be time issues. By the time there's unnecessary delay or prolonged delay, chances are that whatever evidence you may have, you would have whittled down. Potential eyewitnesses may not recollect. We're all humans. So it's always important to address issues. Plus, there are there's the, consequence of by the time you don't report immediately and the person knows he can go on to continue doing that to someone else or to even you embolden that person to continue to do that.
Wow.
Do you understand? So it's very important that you take action immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, but ultimately, like, apart from certain, breaches in rights which lie in thoughts and what have you that have statutes of limitation, generally, your rights as a human being, for your fundamental rights as a human being, have no limitation to enforcement. So
Okay.
you can come up at any point in time to
No
say
limitations,
you were
but then you're
tortured.
encouraged to do
Yes,
something.
to do
timely.
Yeah.
and
Okay, quickly
outcomes.
before we leave, any exit recommendations, Mrs. Juliet, for
Well,
our viewers?
for our viewers, first of all, I'm still emphasizing, get the Constitution, know your rights. If your rights are being violated, seek redress. Of course, there are various rights. There are some that the agencies, civil organizations can handle for you. There are some that you cannot do without a lawyer. But even at that, remember that there's something we call legal aid. They can help you out if you don't have the funds. For example, you're detained. You need a lawyer to come to your aid. If you cannot afford the services of a lawyer, please just contact a lawyer. Know that there is legal aid, and there'll
If
be
you
a
cannot
solution
contact
for
a
you.
lawyer, contact LJE.
Contact
So,
LJE.
what
Yes.
In
exit
fact,
recommendations do you have?
first of all, so I'll tie the first thing I want to say to what she said. Unless you are in the remote areas in your state, if you are in any state you are, there is a Ministry of Justice in the capital city.
And
Go
Human
to
Rights Commission
Go
as
to
well.
go
Yeah.
if you don't even know anywhere. The place is very accessible. Go and
Ministry
find
of
where
Justice.
is Ministry of Justice and go and make a complaint.
Complaints.
They have several
They always
departments that
guide
handle.
you.
Yeah, they will take it up. They handle thousands of cases.
Yeah.
They have a human rights component, a department on human rights. They have departments that handle in every state of the federation. If you are in the hinterlands, go to the police.
I really wish this conversation can go on,
Then,
but now we have
so,
to go quickly.
but my exit recommendation would be to the governments. So I'm encouraging civil societies do what they do, but I'm encouraging particularly the state governments to do more in terms of the advocacy, in terms of ensuring that persons who are found liable for rights breaches face the law.
The law, yeah.
Exactly.
Do you understand? So this is my own. And then to the local governments now have autonomy. There's no reason why
you're right.
there shouldn't be legal departments.
Channels
Yes,
in place.
channels in place in
Grassroots.
every local government to ensure that when this rights violation
Violations
occur,
come.
the people have a place they can go
Run to
run
immediately.
to, and their interests to be carried, their rights to be protected.
And a little addition to what he's saying about the government.
Okay.
If you notice, during the human rights conference, you just have lawyers. Is it all about lawyers? What of other agencies? They also need to partake in these trainings so that we keep drumming it into their ears and they know how important it is.
Continuous orientation
Yes.
and
Capacity
reorientation.
building, yeah.
Thank you to my colleagues for joining me on today's program.
Thank you.
So our viewers, we also
my
wanted
pleasure.
to know that where your right ends, another person's right begins. And also, there are instances where you might not be able to enforce your right, where in instances where it has to do with public interest, overriding public interests. In some of those instances, most likely where it has to do with properties, acquisition of properties and all of that, you might not be able to enforce your rights. But whenever you feel confused, whenever you don't understand whatever is happening to you, always reach out to the right channel to lay a complaint and get a solution. And finally, LJ, the leadership hub is here for you to report a violation. Go on our website. If you feel your rights have been violated, report a violation on LJ, and we are here to take it up for you. Thanks for staying with us till I come your way again. I remain your host, Cecilia Meme, and bye for now.